Hey everybody, my name is Crystal, and I'm here to talk about something that's not really talked about very often. We're going to talk about herpes. So, I'm going to share my story with you guys about how I contracted herpes from top to bottom, from beginning to end. So, I was 19 when, or 18, when I entered a relationship with someone who had herpes. I knowingly knew that they had it and decided to accept it. So, summer after graduation, my best friend introduced me to this guy. She's like, hey, this guy, he is fine. You know, we are supposed to be going to Orlando, and her boyfriend was going. So she was like, well, she didn't want me to be the third wheel. So she's like, I know this guy. He's really, really cute. And he's got a car, he's got a job. Just ran down the statistics about him, told me everything I needed to know. And I was like, okay, I'll meet him. Wasn't really looking into anything. So we were kind of the summer hangout that turned into something serious. It was never supposed to be a relationship. So fast forward to us going to college. We went to separate schools. He goes to, I stay in Florida and go to FAM, and he goes to another school. And we kept talking, but it was still, not a serious relationship. We grew a little closer and decided that we were going to make this official. So we decided we were going to start seeing each other on a regular basis, and he was going to drive down to FAM to come and see me. And 2 days before it was time for him to come, I got a phone call from him, and he was like, I got to tell you something. And so immediately my mind went to, okay, he obviously did something he wasn't supposed to do. So I asked him, I said, did you sleep with someone? And he said, yes. And I said, did they give you something? And he said, yes. I said, what was it? And he said, they gave me herpes. So immediately I burst into tears. Didn't really know what to say. But I wasn't angry with him because at the time he said, when he did sleep with this girl, it was before we had made it official. We hadn't been official for too long. So I was like, well, I can't really be mad. We weren't exactly in a relationship. There was no commitment. Didn't hold it against him. And so he basically let me know that he just wanted to let me know before he came all the way to Tallahassee, so that I could make my decision on what I wanted to do. And by this time, I had already fallen in love with this man. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. Like, I love you, you love me, I'm not going anywhere, so we're just gonna figure it out. So I had all of 48 hours to hop on Google, which is the worst place ever for research, and Google everything I could and learn everything I could in 48 hours about herpes. I knew absolutely nothing about it. He didn't really know much about it. All we knew was what his doctor told him. They were like, hey, take these pills. It'll help the outbreak go away. Goodbye. That's pretty much what they told him. So he came to Tallahassee mid-outbreak, and just the process of us kind of rebuilding our relationship after learning that information was kind of difficult. We, tried to learn as much about it as we could, took as many preventative measures as we could throughout the relationship. There were, I will say that, looking back at it now, there were some things that were arguments purely so off of it simply because he was extremely overprotective of me when it came to it. And sorry, you guys, if I'm sniffly. Georgia weather is cutting up right now. It's snowing, so my body is not agreeing with it. But anyways, he was extremely overprotective of me. Like, we can't do this and we can't have sex like that because I don't want to give it to you. And I was really in a space where it was just like, look, I've accepted this. Yes, I want to take preventive measures, but at this point, I have pretty much head over heels in love with this guy. Saw myself spending the rest of my life with him. So that used to cause arguments in our relationship. And as the relationship progressed, normal relationship things happen. Things just didn't work out, and we did decide to break up. So while I was in the relationship with him, and even afterwards, he still was constantly checking on me, saying, hey, are you good? Just want to make sure you don't have it. His biggest fear was passing it on to me. And so I went for years misinformed, because when I went to my doctor to ask my doctor to be tested for herpes, I was told that there was no test. a herpes test did not exist at all. She was like, I can't test you for herpes because it's only gonna tell me if you've been exposed to it. I can't tell you if you have it if you don't have an outbreak, which is not necessarily true. There is a test for herpes. You can get tested. You can find out if you have it. So for years, I went untested because my doctor told me if you don't have an outbreak, you don't have herpes, basically. So if you don't see nothing, you're good. You're in the clear. I said, okay. At some point I moved on. I got into new relationships. And 4 years later, I found out I had herpes. So December of 2015, I found out, 3 days before Christmas? Yep, 3 days before Christmas, that I did, in fact, had herpes. I had my first outbreak. I went to the doctor, and of course, when I looked at it, I immediately was like, oh my gosh, you can't be serious. Like, this is not happening to me. And so when I went to the doctor, my doctor was like, took one look at it, and they were like, yep, that's it. It's exactly what you thought it was. You got herpes. I'll be right back. No sympathy, no, I'll give you a minute to process it. Do you have any questions? Do you want to talk about it? None of that. Oh, that's it. I'll be right back. I'm going to write your prescription. So, walked out of the doctor's office, felt like my whole world had been turned upside down in a matter of seconds. Like, my life was great. I was, living life, being your average 22-year-old. And all of a sudden, my whole world had been turned upside down. Every thought possible went through my mind. I'm never going to date again. Nobody's going to accept this. At the time, I was dating someone, and it wasn't serious, but, I did, the thought that I was going to have to tell this man because, I was having sex with him. Like, oh my gosh, now I have to let him know, and he's going to think, that I've been out here doing all kinds of stuff. I don't know what he's going to think about me. And, you're never going to date again, you're never going to be able to have children. All kinds of things were going through my mind. Even though I was semi-educated about it, I still didn't really know much about herpes. So there were a lot of, things that I thought I knew that were actually false about it. So I did go ahead and disclose to the guy that I was dating a couple of days later. I went to his house and spoke to him, and he actually took it very well. He was like, okay, it's good. You didn't know anything. So I was blessed to get that experience right off the bat. However, we did stop talking. He wasn't upset with me, but he wasn't for it. And then when I did call my ex to let him know that I had it, he had no words. And he's kind of like silent. Like, he didn't really know what to say. I was like, say something. And he's like, well, I really don't know what to say. Because 6 months before I found out, me and him kind of had, hooked up, rekindled, and then we let it go. Like, nope, we're not doing this. This isn't going to work. So for months, I spent time wrecking my brain trying to figure out, did I get this from him 4 years ago when we were actually together? Or was this 6 months ago when me and him had like that little one-time hookup? So I spent months and months wrecking my brain, and eventually I just got to the point where I was like, okay, I don't care. It wasn't actually until about a year later that I realized that I had it a lot longer than the 6 months. So I realized that, okay, this really did come from when we were in this relationship previously. So I kind of felt like God was punishing me because right before I found out that I had herpes, I had decided to be celibate. And I decided to be celibate of November of 2015, and December of 2015, I found out I had herpes. So I was like, God, why are you punishing me? Like, I'm trying to live right, I'm trying to wait on you. I've made all these changes in my life, and you're going to give me herpes? Like, for real? That's what we're doing? That's how I was talking to God. Like, you can't be serious. This is really what we're doing right now? So, later on that year, I reached out in a Facebook group and found someone to give me support. I got into a support group and helped me overcome it. And it's actually been as crazy as it sounds, been the best thing that has ever happened to me. I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous. Like, how can you having an STD that's never ever gonna go away, be the best thing that's happened to you. But it forced me to up my standards. And I'm not saying that the guy that I was dating was a bad guy, but just in things that I was accepting, because in that relationship and in other relationships, I wasn't treating myself right. I wasn't being fair to myself. So it made me up my standards. It gave me a whole new outlook on life. Like, life is short, y'all. It's ridiculously short. So it gave me a whole new outlook on life. It made me see STDs differently. It forced me to get educated and, realize that herpes is not the worst thing in the world that could happen to me. Like, my arm could have fell off. People out here dying on a daily basis. This is not the worst thing in the world that could have happened to me. And just gave me a completely whole new outlook on things. And so now I decided to share my story, because I feel like if I can reach out and help anybody else, then I've, even if it's just one person, I've done my duty. I'm looking forward to getting to know people and helping people get educated about herpes. Herpes is something that we don't talk about, especially in our community. As far as people are concerned, like, oh, you ain't gonna die? Whatever. Keep it moving. People need to know. People need to be educated. So just want to get out here and educate people and encourage someone who does have it or is going through the same thing that I went through, that their life is not over. It is not the end of the world. You will be just fine. You can live your life just as normal as you were before you found out. Things are only going to change if you allow them to change. Your life only stops if you allow it to stop. I'm 24 years old. I have herpes, and I am doing life right in every single way. So it can be done. It doesn't have to be the end of your world. And I just wanted to get on here and encourage someone. So you guys have a good day. We're gonna go play in the snow because it is a beautiful snow day outside. And y'all have a great weekend.